अस्सलाम वालेकुम, वेलकम टू पैसा बोलता विद अंजुम इब्राहिम। ख़वातीन हज़रात, हमने पिछली दफ़ा आपको प्रॉमिस किया था कि हम जो इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फ़ंड की रेजिडेंट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हैं टेरेसा दबन सांचेज़ और डॉक्टर हफीज़ पाशा साहब को दोबारा इनवाइट करेंगे कि वो कोई सवाल जो हैं वो डिस्कस करें। सो वी हैव बोथ ऑफ देम अगेन। वेलकम टू द शो एंड थैंक यू अगेन वेरी मच। आई विल स्टार्ट विद अगेन Teresa. Teresa, could you tell us about why and this is one of the major criticisms of the program, that it is extremely front-loaded. Why do you think the need to front-load everything was felt so strongly by the fund? And this, I think, is the first time it has been so heavily front-loaded.
There are several reasons why the front load, the sound front load is necessary. One of them is because the problems at stake, the imbalances that need to be solved are important and are in a magnitude that are require bold and front-loaded and ambitious actions. As I explained before, the debt level is very high, it's almost 80% of GDP, and the Central Bank of Pakistan, the volume of reserves is in a level that doesn't provide too much comfort. The circular debt is very high, it's around 700 billion rupees.
Secular debt, the energy sector ke jo hai.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly. The volume of arrears in the power sectors, and that is, at the end of the day, is a fiscal risk and could create problems for the provision of energy. We don't want that. So because of the severity of the problems, the actions has to happen now. There is no much room to postpone these adjustments. So some front loading, unfortunately, is needed. The second reason from the front loading is that also the cross-country experience show that when countries need to face this type of difficult situations, and it's much better to do the difficult things up front and then to focus on the second round in the other policies to develop the economy, to grow the economy, and to settle the economy. So it is also part of one of the elements that we believe will make the program successful. And the third element that is more the idea of PR is the credibility. Is the credibility that these bold actions that the government is taking project. So the projection of the government that is ready to make the things in a different way and tackling these reforms that have been postponed for years in the past.
Great. Okay, Dr. Saab, you have previously, I've read your articles, I've had you on this show, you have previously sort of supported a more phased approach of the conditions, and you said it should have been more phased. What would you think of the front loading?
You see, as it turns out, by the way, the front loading is going to be even more now, because the budgetary outcome last year has been significantly more
less
adverse
than expected. Yes.
However, you see, the concern that we have, I mean, many of us have spent our lives working on reform in this country. There are two very fundamental issues.
Okay.
One is the issue of implementation capacity for reform, and I'll tell you the classic example of that is the Federal Board of Revenue. Now this year they've come up with a record number of 107 taxation proposals. This is the equivalent of 3 budgets.
Okay.
Where is the capacity to implement these reforms? So there has, in that sense, been a spreading too thin of the reform effort, which could jeopardize all of it. Already, as of today, there has been a concession made by the Federal Board of Revenue to the traders.
Okay.
And they have deferred the application of the new tax scheme.
But only for a little while. I mean,
till the end of September.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that is an indication. The other issue, and this is a somewhat sensitive subject, but let me take it up nevertheless, and this is the issue of the political viability of the reform, many of them, because we have a government which has a coalition and does not have an individual majority. And the fund program asks for some very important legislation. And the Senate certainly is not entirely with the present government.
It's not at all with the government.
Even despite the recent elections. So the outcome on the political side also is going to be somewhat problematic. Nevertheless, there is no doubt that what Mr. Sanchez says is right, that there is also more energy at the beginning of a reform process. Towards the end, you tend to get a bit tired. Wherever possible, within the limits of implementation capacity and political feasibility, government ought to go ahead and implement the reform process. I will also like to identify one or two areas which I feel still remain underemphasized.
Okay.
One is the area of the privatization program. Just today, I was disappointed to see that some of the entities which we believe, like the Pakistan steel mills, are outside the privatization list as of this morning, following meeting yesterday. The other area which I'm very concerned about is the economy in current expenditure. Somehow or the other, the budget, of course, is a lot and is very vigorous on the tax reform front. There is, I believe, some scope for reducing current expenditures.
Okay.
And that perhaps has not been adequately tapped into up till now. So the two critical areas for me are privatization, particularly of loss-making public sector entities, and very importantly, trying to downsize, if I may use the word, the size of the federal government following the 18th Amendment.
I'm sure we'll take a short break now. I've been told that it's break time, but after the break, I would like you to, if possible, respond to him. Khawateen Hazrat, please stay with us. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You have the floor, ma'am.
I could make a few reactions to the comment by Dr. Pasha. I mean, one of the issue about capacity is a reality. The effort is huge, and then that requires an effort on capacity by the FBI or different institutions. But again, that can be also helped by the effort by the taxpayers. I mean, the FBI needs to be strengthened, needs to work in a better way, but also taxpayers need to make an effort. If taxpayers are coming clean, if taxpayers are coming with the right invoices, they are coming with the right documentations, everything will be easier. So this is a joint effort.
Achievable, right?
This is a joint effort. The FBI has to do their part. We have to do our part in helping the FBI. Taxpayers have to do their part in helping and in being transparent and doing the right thing. Okay. So in that sense, there are ways of filling these gaps, and if everybody work together, that's one thing. The second thing is the state-owned companies. Definitely, they are a concern. The concern is fully reflected in the program. And as I said, this is a 3-year program, so we'll be evolving, and the strategy will be refined as the program will evolve, depending on the government's preferences or policy agenda, and etc. Right now, I think that what is important is that the legal framework of these SOEs is very fragmented. There are no rules to manage these SOEs, because different SOEs has different kind of legislation. It's something that needs to be fixed up front, and I think something that is going to be done quite quickly. And then the other thing is to understand what is the universe of these SOEs, what are the SOEs that are working well, what are the SOEs that are not, they should not be preserved. It's also a discussion about what should be the role of the state in Pakistan, not only like privatizing quickly. That could be also part of the agenda. Why not, if the government decided so? Because this is, at the end of the day, the program that belongs to the government of Pakistan. So there are a lot of action there, and the conversation will continue. No? Okay. And then the third item that was mentioned is about the expenditure in the budget, and then I think this is also a matter of timing. I think the priority, when you look at the fiscal accounts in Pakistan, in a moment of stabilizations, the need is to increase revenue collections. I mean, also this is something that should be done in any case, because the tax ratio in Pakistan is very low. It's almost 10-12% of GDP. It's one of the lowest in the world. That has to be in any case. Right now, it's a priority, and is very important to stabilize the fiscal accounts. The current expenditure in the budget right now are maintained in a very prudent way, and making sure there is a space for social spending and safety net. Some subsidies that are maintained. No, for instance, the 70% of consumers are not paying the tariff. They have a subsidy.
The
that has to be
tariff is
that has to be properly budgeted. So there is room for this type of elements. Down the road, there is room to look at the current expenditure envelope, to also reallocate the responsibility with provinces in the context of the MFC. Yeah, exactly, the 18 development, if the provincial and the federation decided so. So there is a lot of room to continue working in that area. So this is not a closed chapter.
Dr. Saab, if you have any response, and secondly, I would, Teresa also mentioned social sector program, which is about 200 billion, for the tariff reduction, and for the poor, the vulnerable, it's those who use up to 300 units, which, as you know, is very, very little. You really have a couple of lights and a fan, and that's it. So if you would like to...
Well, you see, the other aspect of this so-called new IMF.
Oh, okay.
Besides its communication skills, which are on display these days, and I must say, put on record the fact that the IMF has been far more outgoing and reaching out to the private sector and to civil society and so on, which is a wonderful way of communicating. The issue here also relates to the very important new aspect of a fund program, which is the emphasis on social spending. Historically, I remember when we used to draft these IMF programs, there was little or no mention.
But Dr. Saab, in the last program, the last two programs, which one was during Zardari Saab and the other one was during Nawaz Sharif's government, the fund was involved in Benazir income support program.
Yes,
so there was
the Benazir income program, in effect, started at the very early stages of the People's Party.
2008 they started it, yeah.
But I think the message was not so clear.
The amount was much less.
Not only that.
It was like 50 billion or something.
The fact that the fund talks now of inclusive growth is a language I did not see in the 90s.
Inclusive growth and gender equality as well.
So
which
now let's see exactly what is happening.
And climate change.
What's happening in the budget this year.
Ji.
I must give credit to our present government for having focused more on social protection. So it's no longer just BISP. And even BISP...
That's subsumed in ESA's program?
No. It's in grants. It's 180 billion rupees for BISP, whereas ESA's program is shown in social protection, which is a new head created on the current expenditure
There
account.
is no allocation for BISP in the budget.
I'm sorry, look at the grants.
Please show it to me.
I've spent my life doing
All
this.
right.
So, I will show it to you in the budget and brief document. There's 180 billion for BISP.
So this is over and above.
In grants, you see the difference is last time or historically, BISP used to be shown in other development expenditure. Now it is being shown against grants. And a new head has been created in the fiscal budgeting system.
ESA's.
Which is social protection, and ESA's comes under that. The total allocation that they have come up with for social protection is about 400 billion.
Okay.
And this is at least 2.5 times what
That's right. That's absolutely right, yeah.
And the fact that the fund has supported this is a positive step. And I hope that in the process of trying to achieve the budget deficit target, we don't end up first slashing these.
Okay. All right.
These have to remain protected.
Okay. We take a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The last segment. Tell me, what do you think? What do you see happening in the near future and beyond the program?
Beyond the program, let's start during the program. We have 3 years ahead of us, and now the important thing that there is a very strong strategy with a lot strong support by the international community and strong support within the country. And this is the important thing, that a message that I would like to deliver, that this program is going to be implemented, is going to be successful if everybody contributes. When I say everybody, is the government, of course, from the leadership positions, a business community, the academicians, the different type of segment in the population. Everybody has to contribute, and the burden has to be allocated in a way that is considered fair. That's why, for instance, taxes are allocated to those people that have not been paying taxes so far, because privilege and the different benefits can be removed. Inflation has to keep low to make sure that the burden on the poor is not too high. The social spending is there. So there are elements in the program that makes the allocation of the burden fair, and this is very important. And everybody has to contribute. And then how it's going to work is that we will conduct together with the government regular reviews. So the idea is to establish targets that every quarter we will sit down and we'll see how we are, how things are going implementing, what are the difficulties that are emerging. There are many things that may change in the global economy. We are now in a global economy that is also a kind of difficulties, challenging, I would say. So we have to revise the whole thing down the road, and not to lose sight that the main objective is putting the debt of Pakistan, the public debt, in a downward path, strengthening the central bank, keeping a power sector that is efficient. If these three goals are achieved, then we will be in a good shape, and then Pakistan will be in another stronger path of growth.
Position.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, we've already had substantive discussion on what may well turn out to be some of the potential risk areas. And I think that is only fair that when you have an ambitious program, there are elements of some degree of risk. My own mind, one of the key elements of risk which has been reduced substantially is the fact that Pakistan has low reserves. I mean, our reserves are under $8 billion today, and in net terms they're substantially less. The presence of a fund program ensures that we do not get into a kind of a default risk situation. And I think that is a very fundamental insurance for the future.
Okay.
However, there will be times when we will have to, as has already been highlighted by Mr. Sanchez, where at least in the first initial quarters or months, we will begin to see somewhat higher inflation, low growth, and that will have impact on unemployment as well as on poverty and so on and so forth. This is going to be a very difficult period. And if we can tide over this period, politically and otherwise, then I think thereafter you would begin to see a move very much towards the positive side.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it seems to me, and that is why many of us had suggested that given the low reserve cover, Pakistan has the right as a sovereign country to go to a multilateral agency like the IMF. And that's why we had suggested.
That's right, we're going. Final question, I'm running out of time. Financial Action Task Force. That's the deadline's coming up. Has the fund helped us in any way or to meet the deadline? Are we close to it? What do you reckon?
I mean, the deadlines, there is a calendar established by the FATF, the task force themselves, and then the government is working together with them. My understanding, what I perceive, because I am very close, working close to the government, is that there is they're doing a very hard work
doing it. So
on making sure that everything is ready on time.
Because that's September, right? The deadline is September.
I think it's October, but anyway, it's
okay,
close
October,
by.
that's much better.
I think it's close by, yeah. And then the options are there, and then the scenario is that Pakistan will be successful.
Okay. ख़वातीन हज़रात, आपने सुना हम दोनों, हमारे दोनों गेस्ट से, होपफुली अगर हम इसी पाथ पे रहें तो और अगर हमारी जो जितनी भी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है फ़ंड के प्रोग्राम की वो एज़ एक्सपेक्टेड जाए तो we could be out of the hot water that we are in right now. Here is hoping that that happens. इजाज़त दीजिए, खुदा हाफ़िज़.